Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We are on our final topic for business studies for this year, namely strategic planning. This links into your advanced diploma studies, which you hopefully will be doing next year. But it also relates to what we have been doing this whole year around analyzing the environment of a business. So we did a pestle analysis where we looked at the political, economic, sociological, technological, legal and natural or environmental factors of a business, which essentially around strategic planning of a business in order to plan for the future and hopefully predict things that will happen in the future and have an impact on our business. Okay guys, so a strategic plan is a roadmap for the future. So if you look at the slide over here, we're at 1 year and you're trying to make a plan or take into account as far as possible the things that will happen in the future. But the problem is that many things happen that are not predictable. Probably the most dramatic event is our current COVID lockdown and the pandemic that has accompanied that. No one at the beginning of the year would have predicted that tens of thousands of people in South Africa will be sick and that thousands of people will be dying. It is now the 20th of May when I'm recording this lecture, and at this moment we have about 300 people who've died in South Africa and we have about 16,000 infections. My prediction is that by August we will have a couple of 100,000 people sick in South Africa, the majority in Cape Town, and that we will have quite a few thousand people who will have died, sadly. I am able to make that prediction by looking at the statistical data that is available to me and making certain predictions based on what tendencies are evident in the data up to the current date. The challenge, however, is that if you do not have data to work on, as we did not have in the beginning of the year when everything looked fairly mild and inconsequential, then these projections are a lot more difficult to make. Okay, so simply put, strategic planning helps determine where an organization intends to go over a predetermined period of time. So it's a future plan for the organization where you want to land up with that organization in the future. You also have strategic plans for yourself, hopefully, where you're planning about where you want to land up with your life trajectory and your career trajectory. If you see me in an advanced diploma next year, you will be doing something that's called a personal development plan, where you will be looking at a career plan for yourself based on your strengths and capabilities and planning out your future of your career. So it is about how it plans to get there and what we need to do in order to get there, guys. A famous saying, if you don't, those who fail to plan to fail. You need to know what resources and capabilities need to be in place in order to achieve those ultimate goals for the organization, or in your case, in order to achieve your goals and aspirations. Okay, and then finally, your strategic plan is also a measure to know whether we have achieved our goals or not. So it says to us what we want to achieve, and then we look when we get to the future point in time whether we have actually achieved those things that we thought of or that we plan to achieve at the earlier time. Okay, guys. So there's a video, what is strategic planning? I would like you to watch this video. The video is on Blackboard. Alternatively, I've given you the YouTube URL as usual, and you could also search for Introduction to Strategy Topics if you struggle to find it, by David Kruszinski. Okay, so while you're watching the video, I would like you to answer the following questions. What is strategy? And the second question, 4 key ways of using strategic tools that they discuss in the video. So record your answers. This is the first product for your portfolio relating to strategy, but it is also questions for the exam. As I say every time to you, answer the questions for yourself before you look at the feedback. That will give you insight whether you understand the topic and essentially are in a position to answer the questions that you'll encounter at a later stage. Okay, so the first question was, what is strategy? So in the video, a number of key points were pointed out or illustrated. So it is about the overall business, and it is a holistic picture of how the business plans to obtain a particular goal or objective in the long term. So it is an idea about what will make the business successful, and it can also provide an indication of why the business possibly failed. He points out an important point there. It's a boundary marker. Boundary markers are what say to us what we do and what we will not do. There are lots of attractive business opportunities out there, but these need to be matched up against our resources and capabilities. i.e., you need to look at what your business focuses on and what your business wants to achieve, to decide which possible business opportunities to focus on at the end of the day. So he provides example of Hulu in the video, which is a subscription service like Netflix, except it had adverts in it. It might also tell you something that Hulu is not in South Africa, so their strategy might have worked in terms of their key customers were the advertisers rather than their paid subscribers. So that focused on what they would do or what they would not do at the end of the day. But clearly their strategy is actually not that successful because we are watching Netflix and Showmax today and not Hulu. Another example of strategy, if you look at the ShopRite Checkers group, they have broken their stores down into ShopRite, Checkers, and USave. Each one of those businesses is focusing on different parts of the market. So USave is at the bottom end of the market, aims to sell to the less fortunate in society. It sells cheap products, and then ShopRite focuses on the middle of, or the slightly higher up in the market. But if you look at the way they advertise, etc., they advertise on cheaper paper, they use black, yellow and red advertising, etc. So they're aiming pretty much towards the bottom of the market. And then Checkers is aiming to compete with Spar, Pick n Pay and Woolworths. So they've got a distinct strategy of what they do with different brands within their stable of brands at the end of the day. So it says what they will do with a particular brand and it says what they will not do. Give you an idea of the resources, it would be very difficult for ShopRite to compete with Woolworths at the end of the day, because they do not have the resources and capabilities to deliver the same type of service and products to the market, and it would actually be a very bad decision because they would probably alienate huge parts of the existing marketplace and not necessarily attract the higher end customers that they would aim to. Okay. So strategy is all about aligning market opportunities with the firm's abilities, capabilities, and resources. So deciding what market opportunities we are going to go for based on our capabilities, resources, and abilities. The second question, so the second question was about the strategic management tools. So he mentions the 4 Ds over there, which is important. Okay, so the first tool is to describe strategy. So what is a business doing? You must be able to formulate a clear statement about what the purpose of this business is, what it is trying to do, and what it will do and what it will not do. The second D is diagnose. If a business is going well, diagnose what we are doing right, but if the business is not doing so well, diagnose what the business is doing wrong. Why is it struggling against its competitors? The third D, develop or design or formulate a strategy. So once you've diagnosed the issues within your organization or identified the really strong points, then develop and design or formulate a new strategy to overcome challenges or to take advantage of the strengths within your organization. And the fourth D is to deploy. A strategy is worthless if you do not put your strategy into action. So it is critical that you deploy or implement your strategy so that it can come to fruition, so that the strategy is actually used at the end of the day. So pretty much what we said in the video, strategy is a relatively simple plan of action designed to achieve a long-term goal or overall aim for the organization. So strategic management is the game plan to attract and please customers, to stake out our market position, i.e. where do we fit within the market. As I said, the example of ShopRite, Checkers, Usave, ShopRite, and Checkers are each positioned in different parts of the market. So they aim at different groups of customers in the South African market. The question that it then answers, how do we compete successfully? So how are we better than our competitors? How do we grow the business? So all businesses aim to grow, or most businesses aim to grow. So how are we going to grow our business, and how do we achieve the targeted objectives for the business? Okay, we get a couple of types of strategy. So you get a company strategy, which is a strategy that reflects a company's awareness of the how, when, and where it should compete, against whom it should compete, and for what purpose it should compete. So, coming back to my 5 whiskies in a hotel, the who, what, when, where, but very much the why and against who the company should compete. It's identifying what league this company is playing in and who its main competitors are, and how it plans to be more successful than its competitors. Similar to a sports team that is in either the A League or B League or C League, and identifying who its key competitors are and what it needs to do to beat those competitors on the sports field. We also have what is known as a competitive strategy. A competitive strategy is a long-term action plan that is devised to help a company gain a competitive advantage over its rivals. So it's essential to identify what the strengths are of your rivals as opposed to your own strengths and weaknesses, and how you plan to operate in the marketplace against those rivals. Again, think of the sports analogy. It's about looking at the other team and what are their strengths and weaknesses, and essentially how we are going to beat the other team on the field. Okay, so our strategy states what the purpose is for the existence of our organization. So, the business is an organization, so it's a group of people that are put together for a specific purpose that aims to add value for its customers and create wealth for its owners and shareholders. So, the question is, how do you create that value for your customers so that they keep on buying your products or services, which will essentially lead to profits for the owners and the shareholders. An example recently is DSTV, that's having to realign their strategy because of the lockdown, especially with its premium customers who are asking, why do they have to pay 1,000 Rand a month and they're not getting any sport? So these people subscribe to DSTV Premium because they want sport, and they are not getting the sport anymore, so they are not happy with the organization. So many are leaving, taking away their business to Netflix, Showmax, etc. And DSTV then has to ask the question, how do we create value for our customers in order to keep them? Because at the end of the day, we lose their subscriptions if they do not or are not satisfied with their service. Important, guys, my strategic tools. There are a number of strategic tools. The first one that we're going to look at is a vision statement. A vision statement is a statement about what does the organization want to become. It is aspirational description of what an organization would like to achieve or accomplish in the mid to long term. So a vision statement is normally 5 years plus focus, and it's an idealistic statement about where we would like to be in the future. So in your case, it may be where you want to be when you're 30 or 35, and you've got all these visions about yourself and your career, etc. It's your vision about the future and where you want to be. My mission statement is used as a way of communicating the purpose of the organization. So it's got three essential components. First, who is our key market? So who does our business target in the marketplace? The second, what contribution? So what product or service do we deliver to this key market? And the third question that your mission statement should address is, what makes your product or service unique? So distinction, what makes you stand out from your competitors? Organizations should also have value statements, which essentially guide the ethical behavior of the organization, but also the principles by which we do business. So they are intended to inspire employees. So when you look at your ethical statement or your value statement, they express the ethical character of the organization. So words like integrity, professionalism, diversity, quality, flexibility, adaptability, etc. They are the words or value statements that guide how we do business and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in our behavior in the organization. So here is an example where you've got a vision statement where, if you look at it, Memorial University to be one of the most distinguished public universities in Canada and beyond, and will fulfill its special obligations to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. So it defines who its customers are. It says, it doesn't say clearly what its service is, but it's a public university. So, and it defines its market. But will be one of the most distinguished. So it will be a public university that stands out. Then it go to its mission statement: inclusive community dedicated to innovation and excellence, teaching and learning, research, scholarship, creative activity, service and public engagement. Okay, so it says it welcomes and supports scholars from all over the world and contributes knowledge and expertise nationally and internationally. So it says what the purpose is of the organization. And then it has a number of core values which the staff and students are meant to adhere to. So this is an example of a vision, mission, and core values for an organization. Once you've got your vision, mission, and values, you need certain goals. Those are when we start to bore down to the specifics. So goals are the general guidelines that explain what the organization aims to achieve, and then your objectives are the action steps where we define the strategy or how it's going to be implemented. So what are the things that we need to do in order to achieve the goals for the organization? So my goals and objectives need to answer the question, my 5 whiskeys in the hotel: who, what, when, where, how, and why. The why is critical, guys, because that states the purpose of why we are doing something at the end of the day. And does it align with the organization's vision and mission? I've again got a little goals and objectives flowchart over here. So you've got a mission statement, and you can see how the mission statement links to each goal within the organization. And then for each goal, there are a number of action steps. So the mission statement is broken down into 3 specific goals. And for each goal, there are a number of action steps, or there are 2 action steps in each case. Now, the final strategic tool is SWOT analysis, extremely important. So what is a SWOT analysis? You will have heard of it somewhere along the line up to now. Is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, so strengths and weaknesses, internal, opportunities and threats in the marketplace. So it is a structured planning method that evaluates these 4 elements in an organization, project, or business venture. You can also do a SWOT analysis for yourself, analyzing your career goals and look at your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats in the market that will enable you to achieve your goals or will threaten your achievement of goals.
Hi, and welcome back. We know strategy.
Okay. There's a short video that you can have a look at about SWOT analysis, and it explains a SWOT analysis quite effectively in terms of what the 4 key components of a SWOT analysis are and the purpose of the SWOT analysis. As usual, the video is on Blackboard. I've given you the URL link and what you can search for on YouTube too. Just to confirm what the video said to you guys, so the SWOT analysis is a tool which we use to analyze the internal environment of the business. So we look at the strengths. What are we good at? What are the things that we do really well as a business? And then the weaknesses, or what are the things that we need to improve on, or where are we short on resources or capabilities? And the opportunities and threats we use to analyze our external environment. So your pestle that you looked at earlier is an example of an external analysis tool that we use to analyze the opportunities. So what are the different market opportunities that the business can look at, and what are the threats from competitors, etc. Okay, let's leave that there now. Okay. Let's have a look through this SWOT analysis slide. It's for the Botanical Bounty Nursery. And if you look at it, what's their strengths? They got quality, saleable plants, and they've got experienced staff. What their weaknesses: lack of funding, so they don't have enough funds available, and they don't have a brand or reputation yet. Okay, so that's inside the organization. The opportunities and threats: the external environment, opportunities, loyal customers, and a growing market, and the threats: weather, which could affect their ability to gain products, etc., pests, and similar sized businesses that are competing with them. I've also put a little video up on Starbucks and a SWOT analysis regarding Starbucks that I thought you might find quite interesting. Watch the video. It just provides an idea about their strengths and weaknesses, and also helps to enforce the concept of a SWOT analysis and provide you with greater understanding. Again, here's all the details about where you can access the video. So, what is a competitive environment? We looked at opportunities and threats, and one of the threats that has been identified by all or most businesses is that they have competitors. So we distinguish between direct and indirect competition. Okay, so what's direct competition? These are organizations that produce the same or very similar goods in the same industry, which may or may not be differentiated. So they basically sell the same products as you do. Indirect competition is where organizations sell different products, but they compete for the same money in your pocket. Okay. So they may be in completely different sectors of the market, but they are competing for the same amount of money in your pocket, or the money that is in your pocket. So you make a decision between two products, even though they're not the same type of products. Okay. A business needs what is known as a sustainable competitive advantage. So firstly, a competitive advantage is the advantage that you have over your competitors. So what allows you to add value? What makes your product or service better for your customers than your competitors? Why will they choose your product over your competitors' products? And there are a number of things such as brand, quality, availability, recognizability, a whole number of quality factors that will affect your product's competitive advantage. And we also speak about the sustainable competitive advantage. So we want a competitive advantage that will be sustainable in the long run. Many businesses have been market leaders and they no longer exist. Let's say examples of this are Nokia, which was the leading cell phone producer in the world for many years, but they didn't do their SWOT properly, and this resulted in them missing the smartphone revolution. So they had touch button, or they had button phones. Smartphones came along and they ignored this. Another good example is Kodak, who was the leading producer of photographic materials in the world. They in fact developed the digital camera, but they sold the rights to the digital camera because they thought it would not be, or it would be counterproductive to their business, which focused on the chemical development of photographs. Today, Kodak is bankrupt, it's non-existent, and everyone is using digital photography. So a sustainable competitive advantage is one that can last over time. want you now to think about, sorry, the slide still says discuss in groups. You're going to have to do this individually, or you could create a WhatsApp group with your mates and who you were in a group with before. Okay, what are Coca-Cola's competitive advantages? Why is Coca-Cola so popular within the marketplace? Guys, again, please read or please do the exercise before you look at the feedback, because the feedback doesn't control all the answers, and the point is, if you do the exercise, you're likely to remember the information for yourself. Some thoughts about Coke's competitive advantage is that Coca-Cola has a very strong brand. This has given it a sustainable competitive advantage. We all know Coca-Cola. Everyone's drunk Coca-Cola, etc. The shape of their bottles makes them stand out. In fact, if you look at the shape of their bottles, the traditional bottles, they are, in inverted commas, sexy. So they make the product more attractive for the customer. The advertising also suggests Coke and fun go together. So Coke, also their distribution network, how do you know where a shop is? There's a Coca-Cola sign. They provide their distributors with fridges. They've got a unique recipe that no one has been able to copy 100%. They have first mover advantage or first actor advantage within the marketplace. Coke has been around for almost 120 years within the marketplace, so they've been around forever. Everyone knows Coke, so we're aware of the brand, the unique tastes, etc., etc. I'm sure you've added a whole lot of things over there. Okay. Just to add, I know I didn't ask you about their competitors, but let's break it down into two types of competitors. So, their direct competitors, who produces products that do the same thing, so that quench your thirst. So, Sparletta, which is also part of the Coke group, actually produces cold drink, but then you've got Jive and various other brands of cold drink, but you've got energy drinks, you've got fruit juices, you've got waters, etc. These are all direct competitors because they sell the same or similar product that serve the same purpose. But now, I would like you to think about their indirect competitors. You've got 20 Rand in your pocket. What do you spend the 20 Rand on? Coca-Cola, 2-litre bottle of Coca-Cola, but you could buy bread for that 20 Rand or bread and milk. Okay, I'm optimistic for 20 Rand. You could buy a lotto ticket. You could buy sweets. You could buy chips. So your indirect competition is the people or the products that a person would spend the money on that they would alternatively spend on your product, in this case Coca-Cola. Okay, strategy has 3 levels, important. So, okay. Sorry, let me just go backwards here. Okay, my 3 levels of strategy. I'm going to use ShopRite Checkers Group as an example to describe the 3 levels of strategy. So at the top level, you have corporate strategy. Corporate strategy is about the business that you should be in. So ShopRite Checkers Group essentially is in what's known as FMCG's fast-moving consumer goods. They have expanded into clothing, alcohol, fast food. Hungry Lion is an example of fast food chain that they've bought into, and they have bought into CompuTicket. They bought CompuTicket because they decided that CompuTicket was a strategic fit for their organization, i.e. they could open CompuTickets, or they could use their existing counters to sell CompuTicket tickets at very little extra expense. They didn't need to hire extra floor space, and it is a service that the existing customers would be interested in. So your corporate strategy says what businesses you will be involved in and what businesses you won't be involved in. Then the business strategy. So each of ShopRite's businesses has its own strategy. So the ShopRite stores, Usave and Checkers each have a separate strategy focusing on a unique part of the market. So each business has a strategy based on who their customers are, how to advertise to them, what products to serve to them, where to serve them to them, etc. If you look, for example, where you will find Usave stores, often close to taxi ranks, etc., where people who cannot afford their own transport, etc., are located, so they're easily accessible. And unfortunate reality, they aim at the lower end or less wealthy end of the market. The other side is the Checkers. They've got family Checker stores that are located in more affluent suburbs, and these stores essentially are located in places where the customers have to drive to the stores, and they are competing with, as I've said before, Spar, Pick n Pay, and Woolworths to some extent. Now, each of these businesses has functional areas. So they've got operations management, they've got finance, they've got HR, they've got, I can't think of all my functions. Anyhow, not important right now. So, but the point is, they would have a HR strategy, for example, where ShopRite's, or let's say Checkers' HR strategy and training strategy would look somewhat different to Usave's strategy, because they're serving different parts of the market and they expect a different customer service experience. You need to train the person in the wine in the wine what you call it, department in the Checkers, to be able to advise the customers on what's a better wine, etc. This would probably not be necessary at the Usave store, where customers would have different needs. Okay. So, what's a strategic management process? Strategic analysis that we've already spoken about, my SWOT analysis, examination of the organization, its mission, vision and goals, and then how value will be created for its stakeholders. Number one, its customers, and number two, its owners, etc. And then also a competitor analysis, who are the people that we are competing with in the marketplace. The second step is developing our strategy. So we've got that already, where you put together your vision, mission, goals, objectives, your value statement, etc. So it's about setting or putting together a strategic document where all of these things are outlined, as in those examples that I provided on the previous slides. And then what we already mentioned is that strategy is worthless if you do not implement the strategy. So it is critical that you put the strategy into action, otherwise it just remains a document. So just to emphasize that, you need to put the strategy into action so that your written document becomes a living product that drives the organization at the end of the day. I've got a slide here of the 7 steps in which we develop a strategy. The slide very much speaks for itself. So first place is formulate your vision and mission, analyze your environment, my SWOT analysis, assess the external, so analyze the internal environment and assess the external environment, to analyze the external environment, my SWOT analysis. Then identify the most desirable options based on your SWOT, the difference between your internal resources and capabilities and the opportunities and threats in the external environment. Choose a particular objective or grand strategy. So where are we going with our business? Who are the customers or market that we're focusing, etc. Then develop specific objectives, implement the strategy, and at the end of the day evaluate it to see whether we have been successful or not. Again, you can take this process and apply it to yourself. So you sit down and set yourself out a career plan for yourself, where you want to go with your career, and in 5 years' time you can look back on this and have I achieved what I was planning to achieve in 5 years, 10 years, etc. And if I'm not achieving what I needed to achieve, what do I need to modify or improve? Okay, now, the last point relating to strategy. What are the benefits of strategy for an organization? I have, I think, 6 key benefits on the next 2 slides. Firstly, it clearly defines the purpose of the organization. So everyone in the organization knows why the organization exists and where the organization is going. So it provides a clear picture of the purpose of the organization and the direction of the organization. Secondly, it establishes realistic goals and objectives for the organization. So you weigh up your resources and capabilities against the opportunities in the marketplace and then set realistic goals within the marketplace based on your resources and capabilities. Thirdly, it communicates the goals and objectives to the organization's constituents or their stakeholders. So it is a document that says to everyone what we are doing, where we are going, and why we are doing this. So it is a key communication tool to communicate the goals and purposes of the organization to both the employees, the customers, the owners, and any other stakeholders in the marketplace. Okay. The fourth advantage, it ensures the effective use of the organization's resources. If you've got clear goals, it ensures that you don't use your resources on things that are not related to the goals of the organization. So it clearly outlines where you are going and when you are going, etc. So it enables you to focus your resources on your key priorities. Again, if you've got a strategic plan for your own career, it enables you to decide, how am I going to spend my time, my money, make career choices, etc., that are going to help me achieve my ultimate goal. Fifth, it provides a basis from which progress can be measured, so you can go back to your goals and objectives and your vision and mission and look at how we're doing, where we're going, and do we need to adapt our strategic plan based on what has happened over time. Because reality, guys, is things change dramatically. No better example is than the current COVID-19 epidemic. That has dramatically changed the whole scenario in which we do business, and it has impacted on your career opportunities and aspirations, etc. So we need to adapt our strategic plans from time to time, but you need a plan in the first place so that you can adapt it and make it realistic to the current situation in which the business or we personally find ourselves. And then lastly, it brings people together to share a common purpose. So if we all buy into the vision, we all know where we are going, why we're doing it, what our roles are within the organization, how this helps us or helps the organization to achieve its goals. So it helps us understand how we are contributing to the goals of the organization. Okay. Still got it. Okay, let's hope this is true. For your portfolio, or basically what I'm going to ask you about in the exam, guys, the third set of questions, you need to choose a business that you'd like to open, then set up a basic strategic plan for this business. So vision, mission, values, and goals. You don't have to go overboard, just a couple of goals and maybe 3 objectives for each goal, 2 or 3 objectives for each goal. A basic SWOT analysis for this business, what would be the strengths, weaknesses, but then opportunities and threats within the marketplace. And then very importantly, you must be able to explain the 6 benefits of strategic planning. This exercise will very much depend on your own situation. The feedback would be based on interactions between us, and we need to perhaps look at what different strategic plans you have put together, but there would be no universal feedback for everyone. Thanks everyone, I appreciate your time and your efforts.